Hello and welcome to this lecture where we'll go into using Postgres with Docker Compose. Then afterwards we'll go into Jupyter Notebook to work with some data and store it into Postgres so that we connect Python into Postgres. And then we'll go into the Docker container to actually explore the data and writing SQL scripts in our local environment, and then using PSQL inside of the Docker container to actually run SQL scripts. So this will be really interesting, and the data that we'll work with is from MYH in Swedish, and this is data from government where they have approved or not approved different applications for educations in higher vocational educations. As I'm teaching this primarily to people in higher vocational education in Sweden, so it's important to actually understand what's happening in the field. A few days ago, they released new statistics on the latest application round, so we'll explore a little bit how that goes. See you in Visual Studio Code first. We'll start with setting up our Docker container. So I'm in Visual Studio Code, and let's create a new terminal. And here I will create my Docker Compose file. So patch dockercompose.yaml. And then I will go in here and paste in the code. So basically what this does is it has services, as we have learned before, and the service we have here is Postgres. And inside here we use an image. The image is Postgres latest, so it will pick the latest version of Postgres from Docker Hub. And the container name, it's called Postgres. It will always restart. The environment needs to have a user, a password, and some database, PostgresDB. So these three I've chosen as just $, now. But we will actually have a .env later on with these environment variables. So here we have ports mapping. So we're mapping the port that is specified in our .env. And then we have two, so localhost first, and then we map it into the Docker container. And then we have something called the named volumes. Volumes is called Postgres data. This is a Docker volume that is managed in the Docker area of the host machine. And this will persist the data. So when we close down the Docker container and we open it up again, it has persisted the data. This is the folder inside of the container that we want to be stored in the named volume. So inside of variable, lib PostgreSQL and data. And then some health checks to see that it's working and doing some retries, etc. And then finally you have the volumes here, which you choose which volumes are the ones that are listed. So now when I have this, let's do like this Docker PS. Actually, I have my Postgres since I have prepared this before. So let me close this down first. Okay, so now if I do Docker PS, then you can see there's nothing. Docker ps-a, there's nothing, and because I've paused the video before and closed it down. So let us continue now doing Docker compose up-d, and you can see that it's built very quickly and we have Postgres started. This will be much slower for you. However, if you do Docker ps here, you can see that it's healthy. And one thing you may notice that it says the Postgres password variable is not set, defaulting to a blank string. PostgresDB variable is not set, defaulting to blank string, etc. So we need to set them. So create a .env file here. And while you should also create a .gitignore file if you don't already have it. And in the gitignore, it's important that there is .env so that this doesn't get tracked in case you're in a GitHub repo, which if you're following my courses, you should be. So here in .env, let's create first, we have Postgres host equals to localhost. And then we have Postgres user equals to Postgres. And then we have Postgres word, just like this. So you choose your password. And then we have Postgres DB. And here we call what we want to call our database. So I call it MYH DB. And then we have port equals to 5432. Okay. So let's do docker compose down, and let's do docker compose up-d again. Okay, so now you don't see this warning now. So it means that these environment variables have been used. Okay, great. When we do the docker ps, we see we have the Postgres and it's still running. So let's jump into this container. So I will do docker exec -it Postgres and bash. So I jump into my Postgres container. You can see that we chose variable lib PostgresSQL/data. So let's find that first. So cd var lib PostgresSQL/data. And if I do ls here, yes, here we can see a lot of PG stuffs, so Postgres stuffs, and here is the data where it will be stored. And this is the one that is linked to our Postgres data volume, right? So this will be persisted. Okay, cool. So let's continue with doing some commands now. So psql is the command to run Postgres, and -u to find the user. If I go into my .env, we can see my user is called Postgres. And then we have a database, so -d for database. And what database do I have? mych-db. Okay, so now I'm inside of my Postgres. So inside of Postgres, you can do a lot of different commands. Let me show you some inside of Postgres. You can see here there's a lot of PSQL commands that you can look up. There's more, but these are a few that you might find handy. \l will list all databases. \i and then path to your SQL script to read an SQL file. \c to change the database, and \dt to list all tables. Okay, cool. So we know this. Let's go back and see what we can do. Let's do \l to list every database here. So you can see here are the databases, the default ones, and the first one is the one that we have created. So if I do \c mych-db, you can see that you're now connected to database mych-db. Actually, I was already connected to that, but that is good to know. So you can change and jump between different databases. Okay, let's go back here and see what we have more. We have \i is interesting. \dt is also interesting. \dt. Okay, and you can see, oh, actually, I already have some data because I have done this preparation before, but I will clean this up. So let me come back. Okay, so you can see now I have dropped the table. So drop the table. So drop table public .mych 2024. Okay, so I dropped the table. So if I do \dt, you can see did not find any relations. Perfect. Okay. So I clear my terminal, and let's now continue to actually putting in some data. So I will create a Jupyter notebook. I will call it So MYH is where we'll find the data. So we'll go into the homepage, and I will put this into the description later. So here you can see this is the data. It's in Swedish. So if you're not familiar with Swedish, you will still be able to follow along. So just download this one. This is an Excel file with a few sheets and some data inside. I will show you how it looks like. I will open it up here for you to see. You actually go into table 3. This is the one that is interesting for us. Basically, you have here education area, and you have here which education it is. You see the name of here is the education name. So you have education name here, and you have here is the education area. But if I scroll down a little bit more, you can see there's some in economy, administration, etc. Let's go back here, and then there's something called beslut. This is the decision. Slag means that they haven't approved it, and beviljad means that they have approved it. This is how many points it is. It's interesting if you know what it means, but 400 corresponds to 2 years. So basically 200 correspond to 1 year full time. And you can see which city it is or which municipality. So that is interesting as well. If it's private or if it's owned by government, owned by a municipality. And also how many education, that how many years they have applied for. And these are how many years they have been approved for. Okay, and these are amount of students that they have applied for, amount of students that applied for totally, and amount of students that have been approved, right? Yeah, basically like that. And in several utbildningsomgång means each period. So each year they can open up a new education. Okay, but we don't need to go into the details. So just know that this Excel exists. I will save this one. And I will go, and we notice a little bit here that there's no data until, so the first 5 rows we could skip. So let's do that. So let's continue now with some EDA now. So let's create the markdown here, EDA MYH, and I need to have a virtual environment, I notice. So in my terminal, let's do this UV vend. So I create a virtual environment, then I will do source.vend.bin.activate, and then UV pip install IPy-kernel to use a notebook. I need, let's see, do I need SQL Alchemy? Yes, I do. SQL Alchemy, and I will need dash .env, like this. So I install all this. Yeah, that was quite quick. UV is amazing. I choose the kernel. Okay, and change this to Python. Okay, so let's start now. From SQL Alchemy, we will do import create engine. So this is needed for us in order to make a connection. And note that I have my .env here, but I will erase this later on, so it will disappear. But I'll keep it as it is. So from .env, import load.env, and then import OS. And now you do load.env. This means that we actually get the environments from the .env. So for example, if I do os.getEnv now, I could do get env and I can choose one env I want. For example, Postgres host. So I choose Postgres host and you can see localhost comes out. So this is to just try that we can get the data from here. And why do I use .env? That is because I don't want to actually write in my secrets and my API keys here so that it becomes public. So it's important to use .env in order to have it so that you have it locally and it's not shared with other people, right? Because otherwise people can do things in your name and that is not very good. So continue with that. I will just copy this in, and you can also copy this in. So this is to get all the variables from the .env. And now I will do Postgres connection. Okay, so I've copied in the Postgres connection here. And basically this is just how it looks like. And then I run it and I get this module not found error. So this is required for us to connect to Postgres. So let's install it. We pip install psycho g2 dash binary. Okay, so it's installed, and if I run it again, this will work. Yes, and it says there's an engine here, and this is the engine object, and this is the connection string, and it blurs out my password. So that's good. Import pandas as PD, and then we will read in our data. So df equals pd.read Excel, and let's see, the sheet name equals tabel. Let me see what it's called. Tabel 3. Tabel 3, so df. And then I will get some error because we cannot read in Excel probably. So I need to install something else. Okay, yes, exactly. No module found. no module named OpenPyXL. So just install it. So uv pip install OpenPyXL like this. Okay, it's done. And now I can run this one. Yes, perfect. And I will want to skip 5. So skip rows 5. Yes, perfect. So now I got in the data frame and just do df.head. Okay, yes, 5 rows, 28 columns. Let's find out something. For example, df.columns. And here you can see all the columns, which I showed you before in the Excel file. So that is actually, I won't do any more EDA in pandas actually, even though it's quite convenient. We will move on to SQL. So we'll do like this, df.columns first, and then we will do df.columns equals df.columns.string.lower, because I want to make it lowercase. Because when I have uppercase, lowercase, it's a little bit mixed, but I want to send it all lowercase into my Postgres later on. So now I'll send it to Postgres, so to SQL. So to SQL makes it into a certain format, and then for SQL tables, so I will put it into MYH 2024, Postgres connection equals Postgres connection. And so this is the connection engine. And then we'll have schema. What schema do I want? I just place it into public schema. I could use staging if I wanted to, but the public schema is fine. If exists, so if it already exists, I want to replace it. And then we also want to have index equals to false. Okay, let's run this one, because I don't want to have the index when I'm putting into my SQL. So I'll run this one. Okay, operational error, of course. Let me see why. Freeze a Postgres, psycopy to connection to server at localhost. Port 5432 failed. Fatal password authentication failed for user Postgres. Okay. And the authentication failed. Okay, great. And let's fix that. Okay, I figured it out after some debugging. The reason was that I forgot to change the password of the .env, right? And since I've created this Docker container before, I have created the user Postgres and another password. So I've added this password actually now. So now when I run here, you can see that 272 it's printing out. That means that there's 270 rows that have been inputted. So we'll go into our Docker container. So I'm inside the Docker container, and I will do psql-u gress and -d myh db, and now I'm inside of the db. So if I do dt, I will see the table 2024. So let's do select star from 4, and you can see, yeah, quite ugly, but it works. We have the data. That is super cool. So we connected from Python, and we inputted the data into Postgres. Let's do quit to go back here with Q. So let's do it a little bit more readable actually. So instead of selecting star, we can select the utbildningsområde, and let's run this one. And then there's an error here, poäng. Maybe it's not called h-poäng, right? Okay, maybe, yeah, we need to have quotes here. Okay, still a little bit too big. If I do that, yes. Now it should be readable, and you can see, okay, on utbildningsområde, we have utbildningsnamn, poäng, and beslut. Okay, cool. Can I filter on all the beslut that was approved? Yes, I can do that. So where beslut equals to yad. Okay, so now I get all of them that is beviljade, and you can see if scrolling down. So a lot of educations from Data IP didn't get approved in this year. So that is the decision of MYH. That is just the case that it is, but we can see some of them. Maybe we see some data engineer. Let's see, backend. Here we see data engineer. Okay, cool. So we have one data engineer that was approved. Oh, that is, yeah, it's cool, but it should be more, because I really believe data engineering is the future, and Sweden have a lot of data, so trust me that they should have more data engineers. Okay, so no matter, let's quit this one. So let's go back here, and I will actually create from my Docker Compose. Let me do like this. Go into Docker Compose. And I want to actually add something more here. I want to add a bind mount so that I can bind mount my SQL files into the Docker container. So /, let's create an SQL folder here. So SQL /SQL : so this is my host /SQL, and inside SQL, I want to send it into an SQL folder like this. So if I create some scripts here, I can create, for example, eda.sql. I can create another script. I should do it in terminal, actually. Let's just create these two scripts, and let's now close down my Docker containers. Docker compose down. So now it's down, and then I will do Docker compose --d, and then I will also jump into my container. Let's see if I have it here. Maybe not. Okay, so docker exec postgres bash, or bash like this. Okay, now I'm inside of my Docker container. So let's do ls. We see here, we should have an SQL folder. Yeah, we have an SQL folder. You can see it here. So cd SQL, and you can see, yes, eda.sql and IT education. So if I do cat eda, nothing, right? Because I don't have anything yet. But if I do, for example, select star from what was called MYH 2024, right? So if I do cat, now you can see, since it's bind mounted, we can see directly that here's the code. Cool. So let's run this in PSQL. So PSQL-u, Postgres is the user, -d, MYH-b, this is the database, okay? And then I will do \i to run this one. So then I will do absolute is the SQL and dash, and let's see what we have, eda.sql, and run this one, and you can see it works perfectly. Yeah, I will copy it, since this is not teaching SQL, because you already know it. So here, basically, I pick out a few columns, and then I will pick out all the beviljade and everything in IT. So I run this again, and you can see, yes, like this. Utbildningsnamn, utbildningsområde, you can see there's only IT here, and all of them are beviljade, and 42 rows. Okay, so 42 got approved. That's good to know. And here you can see all the commune or the cities, right? So let's continue. So if I do Q now, I will continue doing, this is just selecting a few columns, and then I will go into IT educations now, and I will copy the same code into IT educations. Oh, sorry, not this one. This one I will copy into the educations. So what does this do? It creates a new table that is called IT educations inside of the public, and then it will place everything from the select query. This is actually new from 2023 in Postgres. So let's do this. And if I do, I did EDA, I want to do /SQL educations, and it says select 42. Cool, because we had 42 rows, right? And also 42 is a quite good number if you're quite nerdy like me. Then you will know what that means. Okay, so now we should have, if I do \pt, we have IT educations as a table. So if I do select star from IT educations, and then we can see, yes, here is everything that we gotten from IT educations. Okay, great. So let's go back to EDA and do something more. We could actually do like this. We could do this to count. So if I do this from EDA now, you can see this is the first query. If I do Q, or actually, yeah, I see here the second one, which returned 42, right? So we have total applied, actually approved. Let me see. Yeah, I wanted to change, I will change this one. I'll go into IT education, and I will actually remove beviljad, because I want to have all of them. So like this, save this one, and I will run this again. Yeah, IT educations already exist. Okay, let's drop it. Drop table public.ip educations. Okay, so it has been dropped. So if I do \dt, we don't have it. Great. So now I will run the educations again. Yes, select 289. Perfect. Now we get all the applications from data ID. And you can see there's a few approved from the 289. Okay, great. So let's continue now. If I will actually do another computation here, and it's also copied from my lecture note. So this one, and I will use context, not context manager. In Python, it's called context manager, but this is a CTE. CTE, what does it stand for? Common table expression, so that you can use these as variables, basically. I have approved as this select query, so all the approved ones. And then I have total as this select query, so total number of rows. So then I will just do select both approved count and total count, and then I will do a division so that I can get the percentage, right? Or proportion, basically. That is what I'm looking for. Cost, I should do as portion approved, like this. So it looks a little bit better. Okay, and then I will just run this EDA, /I, let's see, EDA. Yeah, perfectly. So this is the first query. And then we get an error, of course. Let me see. Yeah, not this as. It should be afterwards, like this. So I run this again. And you can see, yes, proportion approved, 14%, something, 14.5%. Yeah, I could round it as well, but you get the idea. And I will say that, yeah, I'm quite happy from here. So I will just do Control D again to jump out of my container. And I will close down my container. Docker compose down. Okay, Docker ps/a. Yes, nothing is open. And you have learned about Postgres and working with it inside of Docker Compose so that you don't need to set it up locally. You have learned how to connect it to Python. And later on, we will actually connect it to Kafka. So thank you for watching this video. See you. Bye.